How Army bases were named after defeated Confederates. So, New York Times article. It's very important. Defense Secretary Lloyd J. Austin III. Lloyd J. Austin III has ordered the bases named after Confederate generals to be renamed by the end of 2023. There's 9 Southern Army bases that are named for fucking piece of shit, treasonous, Confederate fucking white supremacists, Confederate general motherfucker. So they're going to have new names. A commission's going to be established by Congress by the end of 2023, so by the end of next year. So that's fantastic. That's great news. How the hell did they get their names on the fucking motherfucking bases? That makes no sense whatsoever. Well, Robert E. Lee did fight against us and killed a lot of them. The Confederates probably killed more Americans than any other group of people in the world. The bases were originally named as part of a movement to glorify the Confederacy and advance the lost cause myth that the Civil War was fought over states' rights and not really slavery. Hundreds of civils of the Confederacy have been removed across the country since the murder of George Floyd. These Confederate generals were at first pariahs after the Civil War. They were given amnesty for their crimes, but if you were going to be a Confederate, you had to go to Brazil. There was like a Confederate colony in Brazil. Nobody else was Confederates. By the height of the Jim Crow era, they were idolized by many Americans, particularly in the South. Confederates, you're not an American if you like any Confederate piece of shit. You're not an American. And actually, get the fuck out of my fucking country. I'm sick of you motherfuckers. How are we still fighting this fucking war, motherfucking 200 years ago? 1917 Army policy said the bases how Southerners should be named for Confederate. 1970 says Woodrow Wilson, fucking piece of shit. So here's the Confederates. Leonidas Polk, Sayonara, Fort Polk, Louisiana. Going to change that fucking name to that fucking piece of shit base. Let's see here. Ambrose Powell Hill. Yeah, I got to get rid of him. I got to get rid of him. He's one of the General-in-Chief, Robert E. Lee's most trusted lieutenants and commanded the famed Light Division. Okay. He was at the separated at Battle of Antietam. What? Where did my Ambrose Powell Hill go? Ambrose Powell Hill? Why do we got the damn, was that fucking Fort Polk? You know what I'd like to have? Fort Frederick Douglass. Fort Michael Jordan. Fort Fred Hampton. I'm going to go fight out of Fort Fred Hampton. That's what I want to see. Can you get that done, Lloyd Austin? A.P. Hill's pivotal. Oh, I'm sure he was. Robert E. Lee. Oh, look at me. I'm Robert E. Lee. I got an E in between my Robert and a Lee. Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville, the defeat at Gettysburg, surrender. What's Fort what? Though Robert E. Lee was indicted on treason charges. Can you imagine? How often do you have somebody being a treasonous piece of shit and then to be indicted? So a grand jury indicted him on real treason, motherfucker. I mean, you can't get more literal fucking treasonous than that son of a bitch. Named as a conspirator in a war crimes trial. But he's included in a general pardon of Confederates by Andrew Johnson, December 1868. Fucking piece of shit. So killing Abraham Lincoln did actually help the Confederacy. Because Andrew Johnson was basically sympathetic to the South and he's going to pardon him 3 years after the war's over. You're pardoned. Robert E. Lee, get on back on in here. Fort Lee was established in Virginia in 1917 as a part of a campaign to honor a bunch of pieces of shit. Okay, so that's interesting. That was by the U.S. War Department. Okay, Woodrow fucking Wilson. What, you trying to... He pretended, or maybe he did like the Confederate fucks, so that way he could get a bunch of white faces to go fight for the in World War One. John Bell Hood. John Bell Hood, he's going to lose the fucking war. Fucking Kentucky-born West Point graduate. He looks Kentucky-born. I feel like I've seen this motherfucker a couple times. John Bell Hood, you asshole. He defected from the army, joined the Confederacy, fucking quitting son of a bitch, racist, fucking right-wing, fascist son of a bitch. He would have loved Hitler, thought Hitler was a smart fucking man, been a big old, not just a racist, sexist, he'd been an anti-Semite. No, all these Confederate motherfuckers would have been. They probably would have joined the Klan right afterwards, and they've been Nazis. Yeah, a Confederate as a Nazi, as a Klan member, as a fucking Nazi, as a degenerate. Was quickly promoted to colonel, then brigadier general. Hood distinguished himself. Marched to the sea. Oh, here's a nice, beautiful line. So you got Fort Hood. Is that what we're talking about? Fort Hood was established in central Texas. Fort Hood was where that shooting had happened, wasn't it? Yeah, Fort Hood. It's a cool name. I like the Hood, but the opposing generals wrote to each other at the time. In one letter, Hood declared he would rather die 1,000 deaths than submit to live under you or your government or your Negro allies. Huh. That sounds like states' rights to me. No, Hood, that's all he cared about was states' rights. He was big on South Carolina. Yeah, that was his country. No three branches, no Bill of Rights. He just likes the trees. Hood suffered disastrous defeats at Franklin and Nashville, surrendered less than a year later. Fort Hood. John Brown Gordon. Why don't we name it after John Brown? A lawyer, slave owner from Georgia. Fucking lick my butthole, bitch. Get in there. Sniff it. Fucking, you want to live in the... There's a guy who was standing right there in line. You want to live in the crack of my ass, motherfucker? Give me 6 feet. I know COVID's over, but you don't have to get right... Oh, hey, COVID's over? No, I get to be... I get to be right here. COVID's over. I wonder if I just... Go ahead and give me a little space there. Gordon became one of the most successful commanders in Lee's Army of Northern Virginia. Fuck this. He was shot 5 times during the Battle of Antietam. Good. Wish he was shot 25 times. How'd he fucking live? How did he live? He was a symbol of white supremacy to his Georgia constituents. He's widely believed to be a member of the KKK. What the fuck? So we're going to have John Brown Gordon, Fort Gordon, Georgia. Fuck Fort Gordon, Georgia. How the fuck has Gordon's name fucking persisted on that goddamn fort? Fucking Woodrow Wilson. You see what these imperialists fucking piles of shit do? They call him progressive. Fuck Woodrow Wilson. I'd rather have George Washington over Woodrow Wilson any fucking day of the year. They're both problematic, but George Washington tips in the correct way. Woodrow Wilson goes in the wrong way. Army historians describe Edmund W. Rucker as an obscure Confederate cavalry officer from Tennessee. He enlisted in the Confederate Army as a private in 1861, given the rank of acting brigadier general by the time of his surrender on May 9th, 1865. With his engineering experience, Rucker was promoted quickly, helped build and man Confederate forts along the Mississippi River. Quentin Arthur Michael P. Rucker's distant relative, Eastern Tennessee. Later joined Nathan Bedford's Forest. What the fuck? Fort Rucker. Unlikely quirk of history. Debate. Named the base. Several prominent candidates. George E. Pickett. Fort Pickett, Virginia. What the fuck, Virginia? God damn it. God damn it. Pickett's charge at battles at Gettysburg passed into legend. Pickett himself could hardly be blamed for most. Pickett's charge, if anything, thank you, Pickett, for running to the Confederacy. You suck. You're a dumbass motherfucking racist piece of shit. So you're stupid and you're racist because you're stupid. But if you're going to fight a war, you're going to need to know how to do shit. You're going to need to know how to do shit, you dumb motherfucker. What? We gotta do something to fight and win the war. Pickett himself could hardly. More than 10,000 Confederate soldiers marched over open fields towards Cemetery Ridge. Hey, let's go to that cemetery. Should we go there by the ways of the trenches? No. Let's just march in open fields. To the cemetery? Yes. There's enemy gunfire all around. We don't care. You just want us to dig the grave or? Nope. Just get on a big pile. So that would make it real easy for them Yankees. The Union artillery and gunfire decimated them. Okay, Pickett wept in the aftermath. Oh my gosh. I am ruined. My division is gone. It is destroyed. Poor Pickett. Fort Pickett, Virginia. Yeah, there's a good fucking man to fucking name a fort after. Fucking Virginia. I'm glad we burned Richmond down. Maybe we should just burn Richmond down. You Confederates, why don't you just go ahead and attack Fort Sumter? I am itching for a fucking... The Civil Wars are good. It was good for America. We got rid of slavery, got rid of a bunch of racist piles of shit. It was good for the English. You got rid of the king with the Civil War. The English Civil War got rid of the king and it got us a constitution. Then eventually got us a Bill of Rights. The English Civil War is great. The American Civil War is great. So, those are the two main Civil Wars that I know. And so far, every Civil War that I know is fucking fantastic. Let's see a list of Civil Wars. I guess the Spanish Civil War, but that's Spain, right? So of course they're going to go backwards. But American Civil War, English Civil War. What else? What other Civil War? Some people say World War I and World War II is just a white people's Civil War. The Western Civilization Civil War. Let's see, how far do we want to go back? How far? Let's just go back a couple years. Some ongoing civil wars. Nigeria, Iraq, Mozambique, Cameroon, Afghanistan, Burkina Faso, Yemen, Central. Okay, so we have to look into each one of those. You can't just say a civil war by itself is good. But the English Civil War was good, and so was the American Civil War. It was great, in fact. One of the greatest fucking... Great military victory. Got rid of fucking slavery. So one of the best political and social advances ever. My God. The North, the Yankees, Abraham Lincoln, the United States of America was on the side of the black man back in the 1860s. We're still having fucking issues with that kind of shit today. So back in the 1860s, we had more righteous people back then than what we've had over the course of 150 years. Incredible. We'll talk about the Fort Sumter after let's see, how many more bases have we fucking named? So, thank you, Pickett, for sacrificing a whole bunch of your guys. Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Braxton Bragg, that son of a bitch. Oh, he was that loser. Oh, yeah, that fucking guy who lost. Oh, he was trying to defend white supremacy and plantations with beating up black folks to do the labor for free for a bunch of... It was 1% too. The Confederates were fighting for the 1% to own slaves. I don't have any slaves, but man, I want that rich man over there to have 177. I want that George Washington over there to have 300 slaves. I'll fight and die for his right to have 300 slaves. 1837 graduate of West Point, Battle of Shiloh, Army of the Tennessee. Then he got decisively defeated at the Battle of Chattanooga. So, yeah, Braxton Bragg. Remember Chattanooga? Hey, Braxton Bragg. Chattanooga, huh? Old Chappaquiddick. Braxton Bragg's Chappaquiddick is Chattanooga. That says Waterloo. Chattanooga is Braxton Bragg's Waterloo. It says Yorktown. It says Sayonara. It says Swan Song. It says na 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 na. Hey hey hey. Goodbye. song. Bragg then resigned his command and served as an advisor for the rest of the war. Earl J. Hess, the most hated man of the Confederacy, described the general as the Confederacy's chief whipping boy. Nearly everybody has a negative view of Bragg. Even the Confederates hate him. How the fuck did he get his name on a fool, bloodthirsty disciplinarian, an old-fashioned scapegoat? But Woodrow Wilson says, that's the man we were going to name after this base in North Carolina. Incredible. Incredible how these motherfuckers are like, well, we lost the war, but we'll win the information propaganda battle. Henry L. Benning. Fort Benning. Man, Fort Benning, Georgia. That's Henry L. Benning's a piece of He's a leader of the state secessionist movement. Oh my God. He invited the Virginia to join the Confederacy, separation for the North, the only thing that can prevent the abolition of her slavery. Oh, we got to protect the slavery. Then we're going to have black governors and black legislatures, black juries and black everything. That sounds like a dream come true. Why would you hate that? What is wrong with Henry L. Benning? I'm on the side of the poor, on the side of the black, on the side of the gay, on the side of the oppressed. Basically, we should just find some poor, black, male, gay man and just name him president. Just name him president. Who is that one black gay man who was killed in Virginia, wasn't it? Black man, gay, murdered, police, had phone in his hand. We'll have to come back to that. But, yeah, a guy calls 911. Put down the gun! I'm the one that called you. Pow, 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 pow. Both the North and South immediately called for volunteers to mobilize for war. The attack on Fort Sumter marked the official beginning of the American Civil War. I think I'm fucking Burnside's Bridge, Chickamauga, Benning, Fort Benning. Fort Benning. Fuck you, Fort Benning, you fucking motherfuckers. You know what? There's been a lot of tragedies have happened out of this. I feel like the only reason I even know these forts is because there's probably like I'm just going to type in Fort Benning shooting. I'm sure there was one at Fort Hood. But I mean, I think it was a black man who had a, Fort Hood shooting. So, yeah, I mean, think about the culture you're fucking creating. Here in Confederate Town, no, we're not racist in Confederate Town. Yeah, the name's Confederate Town, but that's just, that's just history. That's what they named it. We're not. You're keeping it because you're a racist bitch, you racist bitch. Yeah, Fort Hood, November 5th, 2009. This is, 13 years ago. Texas. Killeen, Texas. Nidal Hassan, a U.S. Army major and psychiatrist. A psychiatrist fatally shot 13 people. Fucking shit. That's a fucking mass murder. The Q shooting, there's 5 people killed, but 13? I didn't remember it was being that fucking bad. 13 people shot and killed. 30 more were injured. It was the deadliest mass shooting on an American military base. He was shot and paralyzed from the waist down, so he was still alive, arraigned by a military court, charged with 13 counts of premeditated murder. He was sentenced to death August 28, 2013. Have they put him to death yet? Wow. When did any of this happen? Like the trial? I don't remember any of the trial happening. But what happened? And did he go fucking nuts? He went crazy for some reason? And I thought I was going to get a picture of him too, because if he's a brown or black brother, well, he's, trying to be an army, trying to be a psychiatrist at a fucking Confederate-named institution. So you're going to have a Confederate cultured institution. So, let's see. Nidal Hassan fucking looks pretty pale-faced to me. He's got that, weird name. But he's got very light skin, very pale skin, light skin. Could be, a light-skinned Arabian or something. But, fuck. Did it say why? He's incarcerated at the U.S. Disciplinary Barracks at Fort Leavenworth in Kansas, awaiting execution. Whew. He's a medical intern, resident of the Walter Reed Army Medical Center. 2 days before the shooting, less than a month before he was due to deploy to Afghanistan, he gave many of his belongings to a neighbor. He wasn't married at the time, described as socially isolated, stressed by his work with soldiers, and upset about their accounts of warfare. Hassan expressed critical views described by colleagues as anti-American. Investigation conducted by FBI concluded his emails with the late Anwar al-Awlaki were related to his authorized professional research, and he was not a threat. They said the events were workplace violence. So I guess they're saying it's not terrorism. The decision by the Army not to charge Hassan with terrorism is controversial. The Senate released a report describing the mass shooting as the worst terrorist attack on U.S. soil since September 11th, 2001. Damn. I mean, it was terroristic, but it's a legal definition, right? We have a war on terror, so if it's... Is it terrorism because he hated America? And he was, doing a jihad for Osama bin Laden? Or just another run-of-the-mill, crazy old American fucking loses his shit. There's a difference. There is a difference. But they would want it to be one way and the others would want it to be the other way. So you would need a jury of your peers to get down to the... Fort Sumter, don't want to read anything about it. Let's see. Confederate won. They won Fort Sumter. See, the Civil War lasted 4 years, cost the lives of more than 620,000 Americans, freed 3.9 million enslaved people from bondage. 4 million black folks were freed. Nice! With supplies nearly exhausted and his troops outnumbered, Union Major Robert Anderson surrendered Fort Sumter to Brigadier General P.G.T. Beauregard's Confederate forces. Major Anderson and his men were allowed to strike their colors, fire 100-gun salute, and board a ship bound for New York, where they were greeted as heroes. Both the North and South immediately called for volunteers to mobilize for war. In context, by 1861, the country had already experienced decades of short-lived but ultimately failed compromises concerning the expansion of slavery in the U.S. and its territories. The election of Abraham Lincoln as President of the United States in 1860, a man who declared, "I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free," threatened the culture and economy of southern slave states. And they were threatened to such a point, it served as a catalyst for secession. On December 20th, 1860, South Carolina seceded from the U.S., and by February 2nd, 1861, 6 more states followed suit. Southern delegates met on February 4th, 1861, in Montgomery, Alabama, and established the Confederate States of Alabama. And Mississippi Senator Jefferson Davis elected as his provisional president. Confederate militia forces began seizing U.S. forts, property throughout the South, with the lame duck president in office, a controversial president-elect poised to succeed him. Crisis approached the boiling point, exploded at Fort Sumter. Before the battle, during the battle, aftermath. Let's go with during the battle. April 12th at 4:30 a.m. A flaming mortar shot arcs into the air and explodes over Fort Sumter. On this signal, Confederate guns from fortifications and floating batteries around Charleston Harbor roar to life, outmanned, outgunned, undersupplied, and nearly surrounded by enemy batteries. Robert Anderson waits until around 7 a.m. to respond. Captain Abner Doubleday volunteers to fire the first cannon at the Confederates, a 32-pound shot that bounces off the roof of the iron battery on Cummings Point. For nearly 36 hours, the two sides keep up this unequal contest. A shell strikes the flagpole of Fort Sumter, and the American colors fall to the earth, only to be hoisted back up the hastily repaired pole. And the flag was still there. Confederates fire hot shot from Fort Moultrie into Fort Sumter. Buildings began to burn within the fort. With no more resources, Anderson surrenders Fort Sumter to Confederate forces. April 13th, 2:30 p.m., Major Anderson and his men strike their colors, prepare to leave the fort. Sadly, the only casualties at Fort Sumter come during the 100-gun salute when a round explodes, prematurely killing Private Daniel Hough, Hough, and mortally wounding another soldier. The attack is over, but the war had just begun. Fuck. Nobody got killed except for during the 100-gun. All right, we're going to let them take the fort, but we're going to shoot 100 times, okay? All right. Oh, fuck, So they shot themselves. R.I.P. to Private Daniel Hough, 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 R.I.P. to Private Daniel Hough. Fuck. And mortally wounded another soldier. So they killed two people. Aftermath, questions to consider. No, that's good enough. What other names? Albert Einstein, Sarah Silverman, Harry Houdini, Fort Houdini, Fort Einstein, Fort Michael Jordan, Fort, who are some of our Schwarzkopf, Patton, Fort Patton, Schwarzkopf, Patton, who are some of our better generals, U.S. Grant. What about McClellan, Fort McClellan? What about Willis Russell, Fort Russell, Fort... What about the Butcher of Kentucky? What was that guy's name? Oh, man. Burbridge. Fort Burbridge. Yeah. Fort Frederick Douglass. Fort Burbridge.